This is one of the smallest countries on Earth. No oil, no minerals, almost no farmland at all. Starving to 60 and Tunder is Don sanction times of 500 per person. 1 in 7 workers had no job. Today, Singapore is among the richest societies on the planet. How? The easy answer is geography. It is also the wrong one. For over a century, Singapore was a British free port between 2 great oceans. It survived on regional trade and a large British naval base. Then, in 1965, it was expelled from Malaysia and stood suddenly alone. 70% of households lived in overcrowded or makeshift housing, and the bases that supported a fifth of the economy were closing. This tiny island had to invent a reason to exist. That reason began with the sea. Singapore sits at the southern mouth of the Strait of Malacca, a vital shipping lane. It sat astride the trade routes linking Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Through it passes roughly a quarter of the world's traded goods. But ships that merely pass through the strait pay Singapore nothing. Geography offered an opportunity. It did not guarantee an economy. So Singapore made stopping irresistible, taking its first container ship in 1972. Within 2 decades, it was the busiest container port on Earth. Comhundred the comprehensible Tanchers. Today, it handles some 45 million containers a year, yet 9 in 10 never enter the country. This is transshipment. Cargo lifted from giant ships onto smaller regional ones. Around it grew refueling, repairs, insurance, shipping law, aviation, and finance. But a port alone could not employ everyone. So while other new nations seized foreign assets, Singapore courted the world's corporations instead. Its Economic Development Board offered ready-built factories, tax incentives, reliable power, and stable labor. In Jurong, foreign firms first made garments and toys, then electronics and precision parts. Later came chemicals and medicines, as the country climbed to higher-value work. It had no companies of its own to protect, so it borrowed the world's. It even fused 7 islands into one complex that refines imported oil. Which brings us to land, the constraint that became the engine. In 1966, the government took the power to buy private land cheaply. In time, the state came to own about 90% of the island. Today, its Housing and Development Board houses about 80% of the population, and nearly 9 in 10 Singaporeans own their own flat. But what they own is not the land. It is a 99-year lease. Citizens must save. Around 37% of wages flow into the Central Provident Fund. They then borrow those savings back to buy their government-built flats. The state gains cheap, long-term capital. The citizen gains a home and a stake. Public housing was social policy. It also became economic infrastructure. As roads and railways spread, nearby land soared, and the state, owning it, captured the gain. It even reclaimed new land from the sea. But remember that lease, 99 years, eventually runs out. So Singapore earned surpluses from trade, land, and savings, and refused to spend them. By law, money from selling land is not income. It is locked away as national savings. Those reserves pass to state investors with very different jobs. The Government of Singapore Investment Corporation, or GIC, invests foreign reserves worldwide for the long term. Temasek instead owns companies outright, a portfolio worth over 500 billion Singapore dollars. The monetary authority of Singapore is the central bank, steering the current currency to protect prices. And the Central Provident Fund is no reserve. It is money the state owes its citizens. These are separate pools. They must never be added together. From their returns comes the net investment returns contribution, roughly a fifth of the budget. Yearly income had become permanent wealth. It can hold vast assets while still borrowing, because the assets out-earn the debt. But notice the distinction. This is the state's wealth, not a family's bank account. Singapore embraced global markets, yet coordinated its economy with a firm state hand. None of it works without capable government. An elite service, ministers paid like executives. It fights corruption so hard that officials must explain unexplained wealth, or be presumed guilty. It made English the working language, plugging straight into global business. Its schools rank among the best on earth in reading, science, and mathematics. It also draws skilled talent from across the globe. Nearby, Indonesia's Batam shares the same geography, but captured far less of the wealth. The difference was never location, it was institutions. Yet the system that built this wealth now strains under it. Those 99-year leases are aging. Their value must eventually fall towards zero. Only a small share will be renewed, leaving some owners asset-rich but cash-poor. Housing is costly, and inequality, before government help, runs high. The gleaming skyline is built partly by around 1 million migrant workers who cannot settle. The economy depends on open trade, worth over 3 times its output. Critics call its politics tightly controlled. It is aging fast, with a birth rate now below 1 child per woman, and rising seas threaten a low-lying island in a fracturing world. So, could another country copy this? Some of it: disciplined reserves, clean institutions, capturing public value from public investment. But much depended on being small. One city, no hinterland, a singular history. Its real achievement was never the map, but a system that turned geography into value. The island was the opportunity. The system was the wealth.